Hi there, this is a short video on the limitations in television idents. Idents are basically what makes a channel different from others. It's how we know the identification of a channel. Therefore, we know the difference between BBC One and Channel 4 through its television ident. A television ident can bring a lot of benefits towards a channel. For example, the viewers know its personality, its branding idea, and so on and so forth. However, they do bring a lot of limitations, which is what I'll be discussing in today's video. Typography basically describes the writing in all television idents, so therefore the writing you see in the BBC One ident and the Channel 4 ident is the typography of the ident. If you haven't noticed, the typography in idents are very simple. They are always, or majority of the time, 2D. This is because 2D faces the audience, therefore it's easy to read. 3D will be much more difficult to read and to understand. Also, television idents, the typography in the television idents are always in sans serif font, not serif. Serif is the font where they have the little curvy thing at the end, the Roman thing at the end. I think that's it, miss, I don't know, but yeah. However, sans serif font is much more easy to read and much more basic. A lot of creators of idents tend to make their writing basic because if they feel viewers can understand it and intake it quicker. 3D is harder to intake, it's harder to read, and it's not right for television idents. The budget basically describes the amount of money spent on a television ident. Prestigious channels like the BBC and Channel 4 often spend a lot of money, large amounts of money, on a good television ident, a great television ident, whereas other channels, smaller channels with not a lot of money, do spend money on television idents, but just not as much as BBC and Channel 4. For example, average channels, normal channels, often pay media companies in the region of £10,000 to £50,000 for a good television ident. Whereas, compared to the BBC, which in 2006 paid £150,000 to a major media company titled Red Bead Media for them to produce a good television idents. From the outside, this may seem like a lot of money. However, the £150,000 has to be split between a range of different things. Firstly, the technology used on a television ident. Red Bead Media needs to make sure they're up to date with the technology being produced on graphics and idents to make sure that the television ident that they produce for BBC be great. Next will be the profit margin of the company. They have to take out of that 150,000 the profit margin for the company. They also have to take into consideration the payment of all the workers. Therefore, everyone involved in the television ident will have to get paid. Overall, this doesn't seem like a lot of money, and they do have to work towards a budget. As there was a large amount of limitations in television idents, I actually worked with someone to produce a spider diagram in which we brainstormed all the different ideas and all the research we produced. Moving on, the next limitation that I'm going to talk about is colour. The colours used in a television ident are key. You can't use dull colours like brown because it's really boring, and especially if it's mixed with a colour like yellow, it just doesn't look right. Some colours just don't work well. However, colours that do work well are primary colours. Colours like red, blue, green look really different and attractive on the screen. However, TVs were black and white until the 60s. Therefore, bright colours wasn't used in television idents back then because it just didn't look right on the television screen. Over the years, creators of television idents have decided to use colours, but they're still limited to the amount of colours they can use. They can generally use about 2 to 3 different colours in a television ident. If they use more than this amount, it just doesn't look right on the screen, it doesn't look attractive, and it wouldn't attract or appeal to its target audience or its demographics that the ident is trying to appeal to. However, worldwide channels like the BBC, generally, because it's worldwide, they broadcast in countries that still don't have colour televisions. Therefore, they have to adapt to that with their ident, making sure that their ident still looks generally good and attractive in countries that don't have colour television. Resolution basically describes how something looks on television, the quality of what you're watching, the ident you're watching, how great it looks on your television screen. When creating television idents, media companies have to take into consideration that not everyone has a high definition television. Some people have a regular television with regular resolution. Therefore, they have to make sure that they produce idents to fit the television. That's why they produce 4 different types of idents. These 4 different types of idents are titled the HD ident, the regular resolution ident, the ident to be transmitted online, and the work in process ident. The ident to be transmitted online is the ident that has the highest resolution and just looks the best. The work in process is the ident that doesn't have the highest resolution, it's the worst in fact, because this is the one that they can go back to and improve on when they send it off to the company. This process is extremely time consuming, and it limits the time they can spend on each different type of ident. Time pressure basically describes the time that a media company has to produce an ident. As you can imagine, they have to produce a good quality ident in 4 different types of resolutions. Therefore, there's a lot of pressure at this stage when the company has been selected. Obviously, if a company messes up, it looks bad on the company's reputation. They may not gain work in the future, which can result in people losing jobs. Therefore, a lot goes on in that week that the company's been selected. There's a lot of pressure, and they have to produce a good quality ident. In the same week, they have to send a work in process to the channel. If the channel does not like the work in process, then the channel have the right to tell the company to change it. The company must abide by this law, which produces even more pressure because they have to come up with another different idea, which is also of good quality and will suit the target audience of the channel. As you can imagine, there is a lot of pressure there, and that's time pressure, which is definitely a limitation. The next limitation I'm going to talk about is titled creative control. Creative control refers to the control of the creative side when creating an ident. Television channels have a say in the creative side, which you think wouldn't be the case as it's the job of media companies to create. However, channels create a brief for media companies to follow when creating an ident for the channel. The media companies have to follow this ident, they have to make sure that the ident doesn't break any boundaries set in the brief. Media companies have to make sure that the ident follows the demographics of the channel. It's important that it does, and it appeals to the channel's target audience. Because of this, possibly one of the reasons why channels do a working process, ask for a working process from a media company, is because they want to see if the media company are actually following the brief. If they don't like or don't think the media company is following the brief, they tell the media company to do it again, which they have to. There is a limitation to creative control, as major media companies do not have full control of the creative side, as they have to follow a brief. The next limitation I'm going to talk about is file format and size. File format refers to the format of an ident. If an ident is successful, it's likely to be broadcasted around the world. Therefore, the ident's format would have to change, as not every country has the same format. Therefore, creators of an ident have to take into consideration that, as this might be a possibility, it sort of limits their creative side, as when converted into a different format, aspects of the ident can possibly change, it could possibly lose quality, therefore they can't be as free as they would like to be. Examples of 2 different formats are NTSC and PAL, which is what we use over here and what they use in America. In terms of size refers to the size of a television ident. As it's broadcasted on, or put on different places like the internet, YouTube, it may have to be compressed. Therefore, idents, the creators of idents, have to take into consideration that as it might be compressed, the freedom, again, is limited because they can't be too complicated. They can't do too many complicated things with an ident, as it may be compressed, and if it's compressed, it loses some of the aspects and doesn't look as good as it should, which, again, is a limitation of an ident. I've chosen to talk about talent in terms of the next limitation in television idents. Talent generally refers to the talent of a creator, how much talent it has, how much talent he or she has, and how much experience they have. Major channels like BBC and Channel 4 are unlikely to hire someone with no experience and someone who's very young, as they may feel that they can't produce work to their quality they expect. Whereas they are likely to hire someone with more experience and knows what they're doing, much more know-how about the business and about creating idents for channels of such stature. Whereas smaller channels with not such a big name as the BBC are likely to hire someone with no experience because they feel they can be different. They're cheaper, first of all, which is the main thing. They are cheaper and they can be different. So therefore, the limitations in talents would be that major channels don't hire someone with no experience. It's a business where you have to have experience in to be able to gain work. Whereas smaller channels are likely to hire someone with no experience, as it's so much cheaper and they could still produce a good standard of ident. I've chosen to talk about communications as the next limitation. Communications generally refer to the relationship between viewers and the ident. Can the viewers relate to what the ident is trying to say? Can they pick up on its branding idea? Can they understand what the ident is trying to say, and can they intake it? Idents generally last for 10 to 20 seconds. This is a very long time in terms of an ident. So therefore, when they're shown on television, they are cut by at least 10 seconds, and they generally last 10 seconds on television. The brain only focuses for about 5 seconds, so it's really important that the creators of idents don't make the ident too complicated and make it easy to understand so the brain can intake it. However, they also have to make it memorable and make sure the key things are involved in the ident. For example, what the channel is and what's coming on next, so on and so forth. That means channels have to be extremely clever with what they do in an ident. For example, E4 use the colour purple, so therefore when I personally think of purple, I associate them with E4, which helps people remember their ident. So every time someone sees an E4 ident, they see purple, which is very memorable. However, the limitation generally is that they can't fit too much into a television ident because it doesn't last for long. So therefore, they have to make sure what they put in a television ident is in the main things and it relates to the audience, and the audience is able to pick up on it and intake it. Aspect ratios generally refers to the screen's width compared to the height of the screen. So therefore, traditional televisions, olden day televisions, generally used to use 4:3 in the aspect ratios, whereas much more newer televisions use 16:9. In terms of a television ident, this can be a limitation because, firstly, not everyone has a 16:9 television, more flat screens or stuff like that. People probably still have 4:3 televisions. Therefore, the creators of idents have to accommodate to the 4:3 as well as the 16:9. So therefore, what they have to do is they have to make sure that the ident stays within the safe zone. If it doesn't stay within the safe zone, a 4:3 image shown on a 16:9 television will be stretched, and therefore cutting out some of the ident, which again reduces the quality and how it looks and the attractiveness of the ident to viewers. So therefore they have to accommodate that. Also, the ident, just overall, the design is affected by the fact that they have to accommodate this, because they have to make sure the main things are within the safe zone and they look better within the safe zone. So therefore it limits their creativity, as they can't go out of the safe zone, as well as their time, because they have to consider people have 4:3s as well as 16:9 televisions.